Thank
You're out
you.
of time. I always try to keep on your timeline. Let me get my presentation pulled up here. All right. Everyone can see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you for joining today. This feels like an annual event for me now. So my name is Amy Brister. I'm the Director of Dual Enrollment here at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. I'm going to talk specifically about UAF dual enrollment, but I'm also going to probably mention my sister folks at UAA and UAS a little bit in here as well, because we all offer dual enrollment options here in Alaska, and we do work closely together on things. So let's jump right in. Oops. Oh, good. I saw some familiar names chatting. Thank you. So I like to start off with this slide because often dual enrollment, you're going to hear a lot of terms and they all really mean the same thing. So I just kind of want to go through what those terms are that are often utilized. And so basically, really what dual enrollment is it's a high school student who's taking college classes and asking their high school to give them equivalent credit. That's basically the gist of dual enrollment. You'll also hear terms like dual credit, concurrent enrollment, concurrent credit, all meaning the same exact things. So we tend to use dual enrollment here at the University of Alaska, kind of as just to help like stem that confusion that sometimes happens. So, you know, if you have had any students that have done dual enrollment, you probably already know a lot of these benefits, but, you know, they're even just a student taking one dual enrollment class, one college level class, can help with their transition into college after high school, like just by tenfolds. So, you know, the benefits are obvious. You know, they're earning college credit, they're starting early, and in some cases, it can be cheaper or even paid for. They're getting an academic challenge that they might not have at their own area school, or they're beyond a certain point and they don't want to stop. It allows them to explore some topics that they might not be able to get within their school. Maybe start a degree program early if they're looking at something like that. They get to learn we use a lot of weird words here at the university, like registrar and bursar, things like that. So it introduces the students early to that terminology, so it doesn't feel so foreign, and so they do have that smoother transition into college when they do go. Cost savings, you know, I just saw some homeschool partners in here. Students can use their allotments. Some schools have funding. Some cases we just have a reduced price. So it really can reduce that overall cost to the student. And so Frankie was just talking, they can spread that, you know, Alaska 529 plan, they can spread that a little bit further. So there's, they can even use their 529 plan while they're still in high school. So there's a lot of benefits to, you know, the cost side of things. Definitely it helps with increasing their college readiness. It just gives them like more confidence in themselves. You know, you could have even, you know, the highest achieving student and they still can get a little nervous in a college class. So it kind of helps reduce that, those transitional points. And I used to work in admissions and we had a lot of students who would stumble. Even those 4.0 students would stumble a little bit in that first year. So this kind of helps with all of those things. We certainly want them to come to, like I personally want them to come to UAF, but if they come to anywhere within the UA system, I feel like that's a win. I also know that we have students that are just going to go outside and that's okay, but this can help enhance their college transcript or their college applications as they're going through that by showing a college transcript. And then we do finally have some students that have actually been completing like their Associate of Arts, Associate of Science. I have a handful of students out of the Anchorage School District that are receiving occupational endorsements for specific things. So we definitely have students who are receiving, you know, some completion things by the time they're graduating from high school, which is really exciting to see. So specifically here at UAF, we have some formal programs. So North Star College, that is our middle college here at UAF. We started that program in conjunction with the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District, and it does have a lottery to enter. So it's like a choice school within the school district. Alaska Advantage, which I'm going to probably talk about the most because it's the broadest program. That is, I like to call that our virtual middle college. For those of you that don't have a middle college nearby or a middle college option for your students. And then career and technical classes, we're transitioning away from that term tech prep, which I know, like I used to run the tech prep program years ago. And so it's hard for me to even get used to dropping that terminology, but that is, that has moved away from that terminology, including nationwide. So they're referred to as CTE courses primarily. And then we also have, you know, a lot of students who come to campus who are taking like a music class, you know, they want to do a math class in person. So we just have the casual student coming to campus, taking classes. And then also like within your high schools, there are times that there will be a class that will be articulated for credit. So, you know, I've seen common things like writing 111. I've seen some schools get really creative and hiring one of our faculty to teach language classes. So there's a plethora of things for students to choose from. So real quick, North Star College, we started this in the fall of 2020, like literally right before the pandemic hit, which was interesting. And we ran this for 3 years with just seniors, 40 seniors from the school district. And then last fall, we did the big jump. So we did the jump from 40 students to 200 and brought on juniors to be a full-fledged high school through the school district. So North Star College is now an actual high school. The students actually graduate from North Star College. That's where they receive their diploma from. And most of our students are taking anywhere from 9 to 15 credits a semester. And a lot of them are very like determined to, you know, do certain programs. And so it allows us to basically kind of start pre-advising them for degree programs. Alaska Advantage, we started this program in the fall of 2019. And again, the pandemic hit and this program blew up mostly because of how we offer it. So this is, when I say virtual, what I mean is these are fully on classes, asynchronous, there's no meeting time, no meeting day. So this just offers a ton of flexibility for both brick and mortar students and homeschool students. And then in fall of 2020, we partnered with the University of Alaska Southeast. So work really, really closely with UAS in offering both of our classes. The big piece to this program is that it is a reduced price of $165 per credit for these classes. So it's a significant cost savings. So with the Alaska Advantage program, you know, we have students who are taking one class, but I also have some students that are going full-time. They're acting like a full-time college student. And they can definitely, you know, get their general education requirement classes completed. They can pick from CTE type offerings. There's so many classes to choose from within here. And so it, you know, it's really fun to see a student who just starts diving right in and starts essentially behaving like a college student kind of towards the end. So They, a lot of them are actually working towards future degrees. They can certainly take classes from both of us, like I mentioned, and it's really common to see students registered with both UAF and UAS in the same semester. And just overall, students are very savvy around the state. It is also not uncommon. I was just meeting with the dual enrollment person from Kenai Peninsula College. It's really common for us to share students in the same semester. So she'll have them in her Jumpstart program, which is a reduced program, and they'll be taking an Alaska Advantage class. So if students find classes kind of anywhere, I guess is my point, and we want to encourage them to not just be stuck at one campus. I think that the opportunities for them to take classes at all the campuses is there. So the biggest thing, saving money. That's probably the point that I will make over and over again. With Alaska Advantage, we were able to charge and get approved $165 per credit. That is literally a wrapped up fee of tuition and fees. So normally a 3-credit class would be about $1,000, and through Advantage, it's $495. So it is a significant savings to the student. You know, we have also additional advising that a student can get. You know, they get the same supports that any other student would get. They can do the tutoring, the math lab, the writing center. If they're here in person, they can come and do those tutoring resources in person. So they're treated just like any other student who's enrolled. No one knows that they're paying just a lesser price. So I'm just going to go through just some popular classes that we just see students taking. But one thing I'll just want to say is, you know, a lot of folks, both here at the university level and at the school district levels, kind of get nervous when students start taking college classes. And the thing that I just always point out is that high school students tend to just pick the right classes just by default, because often they're trying to match a high school credit on the college side, which tends to usually pick something within our general education requirement classes. So those are those classes that every student has to take no matter their major. And so communication is a really good one, that oral communication class. That's a speech class. UAA requires it, UAS requires it, so does UAF. And it tends to count as an English credit over on the high school side. So typically it's like a win-win for them when they're picking their classes. French, German, Spanish, sign language, those are all language classes that we offer fully online. This is also another way that I've seen students kind of, if they are not able to continue on in their language, like if they lost an instructor in their high school or they just don't have that that going to a certain level, meeting for the Alaska Performance Scholarship requirements, we've had a lot of students take those classes with us. A good first class that I often recommend for a lot of students is Beginning Drawing, Art 105. And then the other one is Personal Finance, the BA 254. Both of those are really good first classes for students to kind of dive in. But the thing I like about those is that both instructors teach those classes in a way that they're teaching the student how to take an online college class. So it kind of ushers them in a nicer way for their first experience. You're going to see a lot of intro classes in here. This is a great place for students to do some exploration. Intro to Psychology is a really popular class with high school students. Justice is another one. So, you know, if you have a student who's just not sure what they want to do, encouraging them to maybe look at some of the intro classes is a great way for them to get started. I'm going to skip math for just a second because math is a whole, like, could be a whole presentation in itself. But The sciences and math, both. The one tricky thing to both of those is that we'll often ask, what is the student's further goal after high school? Because that's going to determine what science classes and what math classes they may need to take. It's always good to start asking those questions of your students if they are thinking about doing college classes. And sometimes they'll tell you that they don't know and they just know they want to go to college, and that's okay. The other question I'll ask if they say they don't know is I'll ask, are you math, science, or not? Because that simple question often they'll be able to answer. So if they say I'm math, science, let's keep them on the calculus pathway. Let's look at those intensive science classes. If they are saying no, then that's when we start kind of diving in. Like, are you thinking business? Are you thinking liberal arts? Like, where are you kind of leaning towards? So we try to kind of tease that out so that we can figure out what's the science class that's best for them. So the best way to look at these is anytime that you see a science class that's a 1 and a 2, those are going to be your intensive science classes. So fundamentals of biology 1 and 2, those are 2 semesters worth of science classes. That's equivalent actually to AP Bio. Same with chemistry 105, 106, general chem, that's your equivalent is AP Chem. So, those are the things that you'll want to kind of ask as they're thinking about taking those college classes. And that's where I can come in as well and kind of help offer some assistance. One class I just want to point out under the sciences, the last one there, Intro to Engineering in Alaska. This is a great class for any students who are thinking about doing engineering. Even if they're not sure if they want to stay in Alaska, that's okay. It will go through all of the engineering pathways that we offer here at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, which is a lot. So everything from civil, electrical, mechanical, but also geological, mining, computer engineering, I feel like I'm forgetting one in there, aerospace engineering. So it'll go through all of those to help the student kind of maybe decide on which discipline that they want to eventually go into. Hopping back up to the math. So one thing I just want to emphasize is that here at the university, we do everything in semesters. And even when I say that, and I say that a lot, it still trips people up on math. So math, high school students are used to doing math over the course of a full year. So if they were to take pre-calculus, they would have the whole year to get through that content. Here at the university, we squish it down into 16 weeks into a semester. It's that same content, but squished. So I always try to gauge a student's comfort level on that when we're talking about which math classes they should choose from, and then also when should they pop into our math classes. We definitely have a lot of students who start with us at Math 105, but I want to be clear that Math 105 does not count towards a future bachelor's degree. It's considered below college level math. It's essentially equivalent to Algebra 2. And so I will have a lot of students who will choose to start with Math 105 to get the pace, the cadence of taking a class in a semester, and then quickly move on. So we definitely have a lot of students that start there, and that's okay, but just something to kind of talk about when you're talking with your student. We also have a lot of students who start with us kind of at that pre-calc level. And so there's a lot of different options. I stopped at this actually at Calculus 3, but I've also had students who have even gone beyond Calculus 3. I've had students in differential equations and linear algebra. So if you have, just a go-getter student who just really wants to take a lot of math, the possibilities are endless. And that's the thing I love seeing kind of about some of these students is that, they would cap out at, Calc 1 if there's, or sometimes Calc 2 at their high school, and then have to stop. And so this is a great way for them to continue on in their math pathway without having that stop. So like I said, and I say it a lot, but it just always comes up as kind of a surprise to students and even counselors when I'm talking with them, still have a hard time remembering this, but definitely all courses are always taught over the course of a semester. The other thing to keep in mind is that these classes are just regularly scheduled classes. So the high school students are going to be embedded in with other college students. So something to consider, especially if you are talking with a younger student, maturity wise. And it's not just maturity of like being able to accept the content that they're going through in a class, because they're not going to edit anything because they have an under 18 student in their class. So there could be some content that's shared, in class or between students and chat boards and things like that, that the student maybe isn't mature enough for yet. Again, I'm just going to point out course pace is fast. They also want to make sure that they have enough time etched out into their schedule. So I don't want to see a student, unless you've just got a real go-getter, I don't want to see a student who's in like a full load in their high school side and working and maybe doing some kind of sport and taking one of these classes. That's going to be a lot. So they really need to kind of make sure they have enough time to spend on this course, whether that's in an open period at the school or something along those lines, if they're in a brick and mortar. We do recommend that they have at least 3 hours per credit. So like a 3-credit class, looking at about 10 hours a week to do, reading and responses and maybe tests and papers and, whatever it might be that goes along with that course. The other thing I like to just reiterate too is that they are starting a permanent college transcript. So what that means is, unfortunately, if they don't do well, this can travel with them forever. So when I say not do well, what that means is a D or an F can travel with them forever. That is a difference between the high school side. A D is passing. On our side, it is not. So I really try to make sure that, we don't have situations where students are not receiving their financial aid in their first semester when they, do come to college, that they're having to appeal. Like I've worked with students having to appeal their UA scholars because they didn't do well in a class. So we just want to make sure that students are not in that kind of situation. So if you are, working with students, checking in with them often, we do lean on the schools and the school contacts to help us with checking in with students and intervening kind of when needed. Kind of leading into the school side of things. So for you and for the students, the things to know are, we're going to always refer the student and the family to connect back with you, the school district or the school. We will never tell them how a class is going to be counted on the high school side of things, even though I probably could tell them because I've worked so much with so many of the school districts here represented here. So, just always knowing that if you don't know what your dual enrollment policy is on the school district side, maybe checking in with somebody on what that is. If you're a super small school district and you don't have a dual enrollment policy, let me know, and I'm happy to kind of point you to some similar school districts that I know that do have one that you could maybe steal from them. So people are always happy to share. For a high school student who's under 18, they are not able to register for a class until we receive a parent guardian form. That's a one-time form and it can be good at any of the campuses. So if it's received at UAA, it's good for all 3 campuses. So that is something that's going to stop a student from being able to register if we don't have that. FERPA, we can't require FERPA of a student. We can highly recommend it, but it is always up to the student to submit a FERPA. From the school district side of things, we have an open agreement with the school districts to be able to talk with you. So the FERPA would just open up the way for the parent to ask questions. FERPA is treated very differently at the university level than it is at the school district level. So while I can maybe talk to a parent because there's a FERPA on file, I'm never going to give a grade to a parent over the phone or via email. It's going to always be up to the student to pull up their student record and view that. I also won't actively reach out to a parent if there's an issue. That's always going to be with the student. So this is where it's a good time to have a conversation with the family about how they're going to start communicating about college classes in general as their student is getting ready to go off to college, and how does that conversation going to happen in the future. So this is a good time to kind of start that. We do have information for a lot of students, not all of them, but a lot, where we ask for an observer. This is somebody from the school or school district that we can contact that knows about the student. And so this will be the person, you might be that person. So I would reach out to you if we're having issues and we're not able to resolve it with the student. Textbooks, course materials not included in the course cost. And so that is something that's additional and it can vary from course to course. And then there are some classes that do have additional course costs. So like science classes often have a lab fee that's attached. Math classes have some math lab fees. And so making sure that the student is always checking their account in UA Online to see what their final cost is, to just make sure that they have the right cost. So for registration periods, we're actually getting ready to amp up for the spring semester registration, which is getting ready to open November 11th. If you have a student who's interested in taking classes, who's never taken classes anywhere before, this would be a good time for them to start the process. So a student would need to submit an application for admission. It does take a business day for that to process. They have to set up their student account, then they can go take their math placement and or their writing placement if they need to, get that parent form in. So all of those like things for the first time, it feels like a lot, and it can take as long as like a week for it to all get finalized. And so that's why I'm saying if they start now and then they're all ready to go for when registration opens on November 11th, and they're getting enrolled in the class, their choice class, and it's not filling up, that's the best place to be. If you have a student who's taken classes before and it's not been longer than 2 years, which most high school students it's not, they should be able to just go in and register. So if you ever have questions about a student's status, you're more than welcome to reach out to me and I can look them up very quickly. So registration opens November, classes start mid-January. I highly recommend that students register before the holidays. We do close down for 2 weeks and then we come back and it feels like spring just starts. So it goes really, really fast. So definitely getting them registered early. I will also say the students that register earlier are the more prepared students. And it's not just the fact that they've registered early, it's the fact that they also have that time to mentally prepare to take a college class. And so when they're registering closer to when the class is starting, they don't have that mental preparation that a student who registered earlier does. I know that sounds weird, but that's what we see a lot is the students that register earlier, the more prepared students. We do offer summer classes, mostly general education classes. It's less, but it's definitely a lot of the high school type classes that students might want. And that's a good time also because they're often not doing much of anything else So we'll have a lot of students who will take like a math during the summer to get a jump on things. And that registration starts right around Valentine's Day, usually for the summer semester. One thing to keep in mind for summer is that I do recommend for high school students to only take, our summer semester is actually shorter than our regular semester by 4 weeks. So it's 12 weeks. And I do recommend that students, for the most part, unless they're a seasoned student who's like really like got everything together, I recommend only the 12-week classes to students. There are 6-week class options in summer, but definitely not as a first class for a student. And then for the fall semester, we will start that registration at the beginning of April. So I really recommend that if you can, try to get your students to register before they leave for summer break. And that is because a lot of school district start dates are kind of all over the place. We start at the end of August, and so some school districts will come back like a week before we start and try to register a bunch of students, and classes are full. And so they're encountering wait lists, and it's frustrating. And so getting them in before they leave for summer break will set them up for success for sure. So there's my contact information. On our website, we do have a list. It's a section that says how to apply, and there's steps to take that you can put your students through. And with that, I'm gonna pull out of my thing and see if I have any questions.
Thank you, Amy. I was wondering about your student demographics. Would you be able to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, demographics wise, we tend to match pretty much what our UAF incoming student or our UAF population of students. You know, we're definitely, I would love to see more Alaska Native students and students of color coming in. That's definitely a group of students that we have always been short on. In terms of like populations of where we're getting students from, we're about 50% homeschool and 50% brick and mortar. I do love the fact that with brick and mortar, we have definitely seen some schools who have utilized Alaska Advantage in order to supplement what they can't do or what they don't have resources for. And so some examples I'll give are like Tok High School, super small school, kind of, you know, a rural school, but, you know, more on the road system. They don't have AP classes. They don't have, you know, things past, I don't think they actually teach past Algebra 2, if I remember correctly. And so they have their students taking a handful of classes to kind of supplement for that. And then they've set aside a period for the students to work on their classes. And then they have a teacher who kind of just like pays attention to those students. Delta High School also does something similar to that. But also just out in rural Alaska, like there has been some students that have been able to, you know, continue on with their math. They did ANSEP. They came to Anchorage for the summer. UAA's got a great program to accelerate students, but then they go back to their area school and they don't have the math to continue on. And so we've had some students who have done the math with us to keep that momentum going.
Thank you. How many school districts have you added in the past year?
Yeah. So we'll work with any Alaska high school, but we've actually are expanding even further than that. We're going to start expanding down to the lower 48 with our program. So we've had definitely some lower 48 students starting to kind of take our classes. But we work with every single homeschool program, every single school district
Okay,
in the state.
Great.
And including, I don't know if you've got private schools. We also have several private schools that we're working with as well.
Mhm. So with the AHEAD program, there's no discount on the credits.
The AHEAD program is more of an ability for a student to get pre-admissions in, and then they can take Alaska Advantage classes and receive that discount for Alaska Advantage. So I've had some students who are ahead and doing Alaska Advantage.
Well, great. It's great to hear from you.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Please ask Amy questions since we have her on the call. I see also your website has been updated to include all 3 programs.
Correct. So here at, well, and I'll just actually just mention kind of my sister campuses. So here at UAF, we created the Office of Dual Enrollment last October, which is kind of a new initiative. We're pulling all of our dual enrollment programs kind of into one office. Dual enrollment has grown tremendously at the university. Here at UAF specifically, we're receiving 500 to 600 students a semester just through Alaska Advantage. So we are starting to see more and more students who are choosing to do dual credit options, and UAS is also they formed an Office of Dual Enrollment. UAA is formalizing more of their dual enrollment kind of offerings together as one. So we're working really closely together to also just make sure that we're partnering well with school districts. I don't know if anyone's going to be at the ACTE conference next week, but Amanda from UAS, Amanda Triplett, and Kelly Smith from UAA are going to be doing a presentation about just dual enrollment efforts in general at the university. And just kind of recognizing that we all do work together. And we want to make sure that we're serving school districts in any way that they need and that we can help. So another example I'll just give real quick is I work with the Anchorage School District. We have a business academy that was started through their CTE program. It gave the school district the ability to have a more flexible offering to their students because they were short on business instructors at each and every single high school, but they were also short on filling those classes with students. So by offering it virtually through Alaska Advantage, they were able to expand this out. And it doesn't matter if they only have 2 students at U over high school and have 5 students over at East, they pull them all together in one big group. And so those are some kind of creative ways for school districts to be able to offer, things that you wouldn't be able to otherwise.
Thank you. And the instructors for Alaska Advantage are all faculty from UAF?
Yep. So every class has a faculty. It could be a full-time faculty member or a part-time person, but every single class has a person living behind the class that has office hours, that can answer questions, things like that. So it's not, I've had some students ask about the ASU classes. So Arizona State has online classes that they can take and then ask for credit later. Those don't really have a person. It's more of like a shell of a class that they just kind of go through and go through modules. So it's a little bit of a different experience with our online classes.
And also, I think you mentioned the support services and counselors are available to students because now they are, well, college students while in high school. So they do get to have the services offered to college students.
Yes. Yeah, so they can still come in, and we do virtually or in person, math lab, writing center, as does UAS. UAS has virtual and in-person offerings. They can come and get a Polar Express card, which is their student ID. They can use the library. They can use the virtual library. And so there's a lot of options for students kind of no matter where they are.
Well, wonderful. What are your projections? How many more students can you take? Can you accommodate?
My boss will say all of them. Yeah, we finally grew to 1,000 students this last year for Advantage. And in the past, so we've been growing probably about 100 to 200 students a year. And yeah, I would love to see us hit 1,500 a year, or even 2,000. So yeah, we have a ton. And I think it's a great program. And I think that, like I said, even just one class, I think just benefits a student so much more, like when they decide to go off to college.
Well, thank you, Amy, so much. Keep up the wonderful work. Thank you for everything that you've been doing for our students.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for everyone joining too. I see a lot of familiar names in here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.